Hello, welcome back. Today I have another really cool out-of-print deck. Really, the cover of the deck is what drew me in and made me want it and want to see what it was. And it is the Arcus Arcanum Tarot. Cattail all the time. I don't speak German, and so I apologize. This is life. Do you see this? This is what I deal with. Literally can't be bothered most of the time. I sit down to do a video, say hello. Look. Can you wave a little? Oh, there we go. This is Rosemary. Alright, go ahead. Okay. As soon as I start filming, she comes every time. Without fail. So, back to the tarot deck, because that's why we're here, not for my cat. I'm sorry in advance if I butcher these names. I don't speak German. I don't know. The dialect will not be right. I'm going to do my very best. So that's where we're at with it. So, it was published by AGM Mueller. And it is a comic book style art. Alright, so let me tell you a little about the creator, the artist, etc. So the deck was put out in 1987, and it was created by Hans Rudi Wascher. HANSRUDIWASCHER. Hopefully that's close. So Hans Rudi was born on April 5th in 1928. He unfortunately did die January 7th, 2016. He was born in St. Gallen, Gallen, Switzerland. And his dad owned a store there of some kind. I couldn't find any information about what kind of store it was or what they sold or anything like that. They moved to Hanover in 1940 because they felt a hostility towards Germans in Switzerland. So they moved to Hanover, and shortly after they moved, his dad, Hans Rudi's dad, was killed during the Battle of Berlin. And so at that point, Hans Rudi, who was the oldest child, and of course the oldest man, and this was obviously in the 40s, so he was kind of expected to kind of take over and support the household, make sure everything went how it was supposed to go. So he became a window dresser, which seemed so fun because that was his background anyway. He had worked in his dad's store, and so he was familiar with doing the window dressings, putting up the signs, dealing with the mannequins and all that kind of stuff. So he did that. This was all when he was 17. Once he finished high school and all of that stuff, he decided to go to school for graphic design. So he did that in 1947, and he finished in 1950. During that time, he did illustrations for a weekly magazine called, again, this is German, so I'm going to do the best I can, Heim und Welt, which translates to Home and World. Another little fun fact, he earned extra money by painting movie posters at the local cinemas in that area. And when I read that, I was like, that's weird. And I guess I didn't think about it, but in that time, in the 40s, I guess some places, obviously in Germany, they had artists that painted the posters that you see when you go to the movies. And so, I don't know, that is so cool. I bet if you could get your hands on one of those, it would be priceless because whatever movie poster you got that was hand painted would be different from every other movie poster ever made. They were just like all original. So I thought that was really cool that he did that. Okay, so once he graduated and went to school and did all that, he worked for a publisher called Walter Lehening. Lehning. Hopefully I'm right. During the time that he worked there, he drew, translated, and wrote over 1,500 different comic books, which is just like an astronomical. That's insane. 1,500 different ones. So he worked there until Lehening went out of business, and then he went to work for Norbert Heathke, Hethke. Basically, when he went there, I guess Norbert, I'm just going to go with Norbert because I can pronounce that. Norbert, I assume what happened was that company bought the rights to all of his comics, and then they just started republishing all of them. So during that time, all of those 1,500 comics went back into production, and then Hans Rudy started like continuing that storyline for that comic. And so the comic just kept being produced. And they used the time that the 1,500 original comics were being republished, they used that time for Hans Rudy to perfect the current new additions to the comic book line. So it gave him time to brainstorm about storyline, write, edit, draw, figure out the printing, make sure everything was done right. So he had like a little window of opportunity before he had to just immediately begin producing more and more and more. He worked there for 10 years, and then he decided that he was going to retire. And Norbert, the publishing house, refused to kill off his main character in the comic and end the comic because the comic was so popular in Germany and in kind of most of Europe. So Norbert didn't want to kill off the main character and end the comic. But, I mean, if you put yourself in Hans Rudy's shoes, he had literally created the entire comic start to finish by himself. He wrote them all, he drew them all, he edited them all, he translated them all for the countries in Europe that spoke different languages. So the comic was his. And I guess, I mean, that's just how the business works, but I guess the publishing house is who actually owned the rights to the comics, not the artist, which is like really fucked up in my opinion, honestly. But I guess it is what it is. So Hans Rudy retired, and then Norbert just hired another artist to keep on creating these comics. And I mean, I haven't seen the comics, like the new ones versus the ones that Hans Rudy did, but I can only imagine that there had to be a clear difference in style, content, storyline. Like, surely they weren't, they weren't simpatico. They could not have gone together. So Hans Rudy retired and they kept publishing it. And at some point, that is all the information I had about Hans Rudy. I couldn't find any information about why he created this in the first place. Like, what made him? So, the cool thing about this deck is that because he was a comic book artist, the deck flows beautifully. The major arcana all look like they go together. They all are like clearly meant to be a set. And then each of the suits of the minor arcana and the courts, all, if you line them all up, I'll do that whenever we do the flip through, but if you line them all up, they look like sort of like a comic. Like you can clearly see the story of each of the suits and obviously the majors. So the deck is really, really cool, and you can find it. It isn't a deck that's super hard to find. Honestly, it isn't even really that expensive a lot of the times. And you can find it in really good shape still. I mean, this deck is basically looks brand new. I mean, there's like very little like wear of any kind. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and flip the camera and do a little walkthrough and let you see this really cool, really special, really kind of unique take on the tarot. Alright, so this is the box. That's the bottom, the side, the top, the other side, and there is the back. These are the backs of the cards. This is a standard tarot, so they are narrower and shorter, but they're a really good size, a really nice size. They come with 2 extra cards. One is just like an art card, and then the other is information about the creator and the deck. So there's that. And then we have the little white book. It has a little introduction, information about all of the stuff, you know, all of the how tarot is read and that kind of thing. And then lots of information about the majors. The majors probably have about almost a page or a page and a half each. And then we go into the minors. And then there, of course, is the Celtic Cross, which is like, I think just standard in any little white book. They seem to all have that. I'm going to walk through all of the cards, and then I'll lay out all of the majors together and all of the minor suits, respectively, and let you see what I mean about how they all go together. So we have the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the High Priest, the Lovers, which is this is such a cool way to look at it. It's like they're together and then they're at a crossroads and they have to decide, like, it's like, what is the choice that they're making? Like, this could be so many things. This could be strangers. These could be people that they know. This could be people that they are both interested romantically. So I like this. This is a cool Lover's card. The Chariot, Justice, the Hermit, the Wheel, Strength. Again, I really like a strength card where, you know, the person is just kind of embracing the lion or petting the lion and not being really forceful. The Hanged Man. Death. What a cool death card. The colors in this deck are really, really beautiful. Temperance. The Devil. I mean, that is just so cool. He was such a great artist. The Tower. It's like... Let me see if you can see the expression on his face. It doesn't look like he's overly afraid, even though he's clearly about to fall and die. And that's kind of a cool take, like the calm before before the storm. The Star. The Moon. Also really beautiful coloration. And I like that you can see the moon in its entirety, even though it's a little crescent. The Sun. Judgment. And this is cool because it's like she's popping through something, or this, this person, man or woman, is like coming through something. Like it's not like an angel on a cloud, or like even in space. It looks like they're coming from like another dimension. The World. Alright, and then we go to the Wands. This is a cool Four of Wands because instead of it looking like a party or someone getting married or something like that, to me this looks like a family. And I like when the Four of Wands is sort of representative of a family. There's our 5, 6. The way that the pips are illustrated are really cool because they're like kind of laid out. Like the batons obviously here are laid out like pip style, but clearly it's part of an actual scene too. And I think that's really cool that they did that, the way that he did that. This is a cool 8 too, because they're not just like flying in the air like you normally would see, but you can kind of still see the motion. Like it looks like they're calling out to these women to like come towards them. So you still kind of get that movement. 9, 10, Page, Knight, and there's our Queen and our King. And there's our Ace of Discs, our Pentacles, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's our 8, which is interesting because it's not like they're working on them per se, but like they're obviously working together on something. Those look like shields to me. There's our 9, 10, Page. I like this for the Page because you can see he's sort of struggling with that, and I think that's good Page energy. It kind of represents like when you're young and kind of starting out on something. Sometimes you struggle. There's our Knight, Queen, and the King. Here's our swords. Really pretty, like icy blue color. And here's our cups, which are, the colors are just beautiful. This is interesting because typically these 3 cups would be turned over, but it still looks like you still get the feeling, the same feeling in the traditional, or I do at least when I look at the card. But it's interesting that they're all still upright. This is interesting because it looks like the contents of all of the cups have been dumped out, but it looks like they've made their choice, and their cup still is covered. Like they're unsure what was in it. That's cool. And our 10. You can see the celebration, like they're excited to see each other. Page, Knight, Queen, and the King. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and spread these all out and show you each of the suits. Okay, so here are all of the majors. You can kind of see how they're all like really coherent and really go well together. And here are our wands. And here are our discs. And here are our swords. And here are our cups. So yeah, this is the Arcus Arcanum tarot deck. You can definitely find it on eBay. I've seen it on Etsy. Yeah, it is definitely available. You just have to look. So thanks for watching.